do you guys know that licensed games actually cost a lot more money to produce than AAA games? Like, I do know that AAA games, some of them, but less and less frequently in the modern day and age, have gone through development heck or cost a lot more money than usual. But it's always been the case with licensed games and also indie games. They've always cost a lot more money to produce in hindsight. And in the case of, say, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie game for Game Boy Advance, it's actually one of the best-selling Game Boy Advance games of all time and one of the best-selling SpongeBob games by extension. And also, I pointed this out before, in the case of, say, the Invincible Iron Man for Game Boy Advance, this game was universally hated when it first came out. Like, it was quickly seen as shovelware, worth only $2. Funny, because now it's worth $89.99. Yeah, that's really funny. And if we're talking about licensed games that have really, really great animation, like especially for the hardware they were released on, one of my more recent favorite examples is Iron Man XO, Modelware, and Heavy Metal, if I'm not pronouncing that right. But specifically, on the character select screen, it's very hard to tell at first, but Iron Man and XO, I think it's XO Modelware is the name of that other character, they're 3D models. It's very, very stilted, so it might be hard to tell dead on arrival at first glance, but for an 8-bit portable handheld, like, that's literally graphically impressive, again, for the time. It's also a game that was released on, I think, Sega Saturn and PlayStation. If I point that out real quick. Rocket Power Dream Scheme is a Game Boy Advance game that released, I believe, in either 2001 or 2002. That has, especially even for Game Boy Advance standards, really impressive frame-by-frame animation. And SpongeBob SquarePants Super Sponge, which I have the combo pack, which I've actually had since I was a kid, like literally since 2004, but I'm getting kind of sidetracked. Super Sponge is interesting in the way that the PlayStation version actually has an earlier build date, and the Game Boy Advance version was released a little bit later as a result. But no matter which version of the game you're talking about, Super Sponge beta content and prototypes, even if you're not interested in SpongeBob that much, but if you're interested in video game history alone, it's actually quite fascinating how much they were actually able to document in the Super Sponge prototype and beta content, whatever community. I'll just leave a link to the channel in the description. There's also a Discord server. But, like, no matter which version of the game you're talking about, the prototype stuff and the beta content is very, very fascinating. Again, even for licensed game history alone, if you want to look into it. And that actually reminds me, back to the whole really impressive animation thing. Specifically with the DS version of Creature from the Krusty Krab, if you look up Creature from the Krusty Krab DS on the cutting room floor, again, specifically the DS version, I'm not sure how recently, but 3 development cells, animation cells from the making of that version's animated cutscenes, they surfaced recently. Again, only 3 are available for public viewing, which I'd imagine that's probably because, well, to anyone and everyone who is a hardcore SpongeBob fan, Nickelodeon fan in general, actually, we all know that Viacom has a lot of disdain for their animators and stuff like that. They don't care. But, like, that's actually probably my favorite piece of trivia about the DS version specifically. And if I'm talking about composers real quick, I know it's kind of off topic. Tomoshi Sato, that dude is a wonderful composer who people really should listen to his stuff a lot more because, like, he's not even underrated. He's so forgotten, and it's really, really heartbreaking in hindsight because, like, it's pretty clear that he worked really hard on his SpongeBob stuff and even his Phineas and Ferb stuff, which is also pretty good. But back to the impressive animation thing real quick, and then I'll end this video. Batman the Brave and the Bold and Thor: God of Thunder, Thor: God of Thunder for DS specifically, run on the exact same graphical engine and also have very similar gameplay styles. Also, the soundtracks for both of those games were composed by Jake Kaufman. But if you look up gameplay of both of those games, very, very impressive animation, even for DS standards. I especially love how both of those games take advantage of them being, you know, on the DS and having a lot of the bosses take up both screens. That's really impressive. That, like, really impressive sense of scale is really, really awesome. So yeah, I thought I'd point out, like, how much licensed games, you know, actually have a lot more passion put into them than big name games in hindsight. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is Sir Bop-A-Lot, signing out.